Commander Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation deck window of Research Station Alpha 7, watching the massive storm cloud swirl across the surface of Kepler 442b. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, but she knew better. Down there, hurricane-force winds were tearing through the carefully maintained wildlife preserve that Earth had established 50 years ago. The preserve was humanity's greatest achievement in the galaxy. After finding this planet with its Earth-like atmosphere, humans had brought endangered species from their dying homeworld. Lions, elephants, tigers, and countless other animals now thrived in vast protected areas. But today, the worst storm in recorded planetary history was threatening everything they had built. "Commander, we're getting emergency signals from Sector 7, reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb, his fingers flying over the holographic display. The automated systems show massive flooding in the main lion habitat. Sarah's heart sank. Sector 7 housed the pride they had spent decades nurturing back from near extinction. These weren't just any lions, they were the last genetic line of African lions, enhanced with subtle modifications to help them survive on this new world. "What about the evacuation protocols?" Sarah asked, though she already suspected the answer. "All automated rescue drones are down. The electromagnetic interference from the storm is too strong. We can't get any tech near the surface right now," Marcus replied grimly. Through the window, Sarah could see the angry purple clouds crackling with alien lightning. The storm was unlike anything Earth had ever produced. Kepler 442b's unique atmospheric composition created weather patterns that could last for weeks and generate electrical fields strong enough to fry any electronic device. "There has to be something we can do," Sarah muttered, watching the storm rage below. Her mind raced through options, but every piece of technology they had would be useless in those conditions. That's when Dr. Elena Vasquez burst through the observation deck doors, her research coat still damp from rushing through the station's humid corridors. "Sarah, I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." Elena was the station's chief xenobiologist and the person responsible for all animal welfare on the planet. If anyone could find a solution, it would be her. "At this point, I'll listen to anything," Sarah said, turning from the window. "Rex," Elena said simply. Sarah blinked. "Rex, your dog?" Rex was Elena's companion, a mixed breed she had rescued from the streets of Neo-Tokyo before joining the mission. Technically, pets weren't allowed on research stations, but Elena had somehow gotten special permission. The dog had become the station's unofficial mascot, loved by everyone aboard. "He's not just any dog, Sarah. Rex is from the Enhanced Animal Project that got canceled 10 years ago. Before I adopted him, he was part of a military program that gave certain animals enhanced intelligence, improved physical capabilities, and resistance to electromagnetic interference." Sarah stared at her friend. "You never told me Rex was genetically modified. The program was classified and I wasn't supposed to know. But when I found him in that shelter, I recognized the markers: enhanced reflexes, superior problem-solving abilities, and most importantly for our current situation, biological systems that aren't affected by electromagnetic fields." The implications hit Sarah like a thunderbolt. "You're suggesting we send your dog down to that storm? Rex can survive conditions that would kill any human or destroy any machine. His enhanced genetics include improved lung capacity, stronger bones, and protective skin layers. The storm won't hurt him the way it would hurt us." Sarah looked back at the raging planet below. Even if he could survive down there, how would he know where to go? How would he know what to do? Elena smiled, but there was worry in her eyes. "Rex isn't just smart for a dog, Sarah. He's smart, period. I've been working with him for 3 years. He understands complex instructions, can navigate using natural landmarks, and has an incredible sense of direction. If anyone can find those lions and help them, it's him. But how would we get him down there? The transport pods won't work in this storm. Emergency drop pod, the old mechanical ones from the early colonial days. No electronics, just gravity and basic parachutes. Rex has been trained for high-altitude insertions." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Elena, you're talking about dropping your dog onto an alien planet in the middle of the worst storm we've ever recorded. Even if he survives the landing, even if he finds the lions, how is he supposed to help them? Rex has rescue training. And he's stronger than he looks. Those genetic modifications aren't just for show. He can guide animals to safety, clear obstacles, even provide basic first aid if needed." The observation deck fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Through the window, the storm continued its assault on the planet below. Somewhere down there, in flooded habitats and collapsed shelters, animals were dying. The pride in Sector 7, Sarah said quietly. How many lions? 43 adults, including alpha female Luna and her 2 cubs. Born just last month. Elena's voice caught slightly. The cubs won't survive if the main shelter is flooded. Sarah closed her eyes, weighing the impossible decision. Send a dog on a suicide mission to maybe save some animals, or watch helplessly as humanity's greatest conservation effort was destroyed by an alien storm. How long would the storm last? She asked. Marcus checked his instruments. Current projections show another 18 hours of peak intensity, then gradual weakening over the next 2 days. And how long can the animals survive in flood conditions? The adults might last 12 hours if they find high ground. The cubs? Elena shook her head. 4 hours, maybe 6 if they're lucky. Sarah opened her eyes and looked at her friend. Elena's face showed the same determination that had made her volunteer for this mission in the first place. The, woman who had dedicated her life to saving Earth's animals was now asking to risk her best friend to save them on another world. Where's Rex now? Sarah asked quietly. Rex lay sleeping in Elena's quarters, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. The German Shepherd mix was larger than most dogs, his enhanced genetics giving him the build of a small wolf. His dark fur had subtle patterns that seemed to shift in different light, another sign of his modified DNA. Elena knelt beside him, gently stroking his head. Rex's eyes opened immediately, alert and intelligent. Those weren't the eyes of a normal dog. They held an awareness that sometimes unsettled visitors to the station. Hey boy, Elena whispered. We need to talk. Rex sat up, tilting his head in that way that made Elena certain he understood every word she said. She had spent years studying animal intelligence, but Rex was different. Sometimes she felt like he was studying her right back. There are animals in trouble down on the planet, lions like the ones in your training videos. They're trapped in a big storm, and we can't reach them with our ships or robots. Rex's ears perked up at the word lions. Elena had shown him footage of every animal in the preserve as part of his ongoing education. She believed that enhanced animals needed to understand their role in the larger ecosystem. The thing is, boy, you might be the only one who can help them, but it would mean going down to the planet, alone in very dangerous conditions. Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the planet's surface. Rex watched intently as she pointed to different areas, his enhanced mind processing the information faster than any normal animal could. The storm is here, she said, highlighting the swirling mass of clouds. And the lions are trapped here in an area that's flooding. You would need to find them, help them get to safety and survive until the storm passes. Rex stood up, moving to the holographic display. He sniffed at the projection, then looked back at Elena with what she could only describe as determination. You understand, don't you? You know this is dangerous, Rex barked once, his signal for yes that they had developed during training. Are you willing to try? Another bark. Elena felt tears threatening to fall. I wish there was another way, Rex. I wish I could go with you. Rex moved closer and nuzzled her hand, a gesture that seemed to say, I know, but this is what I meant to do. 20 minutes later, they were in the station's equipment bay. Chief Engineer Thomas Rodriguez was pulling an ancient emergency drop pod from storage, his team working frantically to check its systems. This thing is older than my grandfather, Thomas muttered, inspecting the pod's mechanical release mechanisms. But it's built like a tank. Pure mechanical engineering, no electronics to fry. The pod looked like a metal egg, barely large enough for a human to squeeze inside. For Rex, it would be a tight but manageable fit. The parachute system is gravity-activated, Thomas explained to Elena. Once it reaches a certain altitude, these springs trigger the chute deployment. No computers, no electronics, just physics. Elena was fitting Rex with a special harness designed for the enhanced animal program. The harness contained basic supplies, water, high-energy food, a basic first aid kit, and most importantly, a locator beacon that worked on biological energy rather than electronics. The beacon will help us track you, Elena explained as she adjusted the straps, and it will guide you to the lion habitat. When it gets warmer, you're heading in the right direction. When it gets cooler, turn around. Rex sat patiently as she worked, his intelligent eyes watching every preparation. Other crew members had gathered to watch, word having spread quickly through the station about the unprecedented mission. Dr. James Wu, the station's veterinarian, was adding a special medication dispenser to Rex's harness. "This contains emergency medical supplies," he explained. "If you find injured animals, squeeze this pouch and spread the gel on their wounds. It's designed to work on multiple species." Commander Chen arrived just as they were finishing the preparations. She looked at Rex with a mixture of admiration and regret. "I've authorized the mission," she announced. "Emergency protocols allow for unconventional rescue attempts when all other options are exhausted." Elena knelt down to Rex's level one more time. "Okay, boy. Let's go over the mission again. You're going to land in Sector 5, which should be upwind from the worst flooding. From there, you follow the beacon to Sector 7, where the lions are trapped. Your job is to find them and guide them to the emergency shelter on the ridge above their habitat." Rex barked once. "The shelter is a natural cave system that we reinforced with supplies. It's marked with scent markers that you should recognize. We use the same compounds in your training exercises." Another bark. "Most importantly, Rex, you need to survive. Don't take unnecessary risks. If you can't save them all, save who you can. We'll send rescue teams as soon as the storm clears." Rex moved forward and licked Elena's face, then walked calmly toward the drop pod. His enhanced genetics made him fearless in a way that sometimes worried Elena, but right now she was grateful for it. The launch bay was a flurry of activity, as technicians made final preparations. The storm below looked even more violent from here, with lightning strikes visible even through the thick cloud cover. "Drop zone is as clear as we can make it," reported the navigation officer, "but visibility is near zero down there." Elena helped Rex into the pod, making sure his harness was secure and his supplies were properly attached. "Remember your training, boy. Trust your instincts. And come home to me." Rex settled into the pod with the calm confidence of a professional. Elena sealed the hatch, her hands shaking slightly. "Launch in T-minus 60 seconds, announced the computer system. Elena watched through the observation window as the pod was moved into position. Rex's face was visible through the small porthole, alert but unafraid. 30 seconds. The entire crew had gathered to watch. This was either the most heroic or most insane thing anyone had ever attempted. 10 seconds. Elena held her breath. Launch. The pod shot away from the station like a bullet, disappearing into the swirling storm clouds below. Within seconds, it was lost from view, leaving nothing but the raging planet and a crew of humans who could only wait and hope. The drop pod plummeted through layers of alien atmosphere, spinning wildly as hurricane winds caught it. Inside, Rex remained calm despite the violent motion. His enhanced inner ear kept him from getting sick, while his modified nervous system processed the chaos around him with supernatural clarity. Lightning struck the pod twice during descent, the metal shell conducting the energy harmlessly around Rex's protected interior. The electromagnetic field that would have fried any electronic device simply washed over his biological systems without effect. At precisely the right altitude, mechanical springs triggered the parachute deployment. The pod's descent slowed dramatically, but the winds immediately caught the chute and dragged Rex sideways across the sky. Through the small porthole, he could see an alien landscape rushing past below. Kepler 442b looked different from Earth in subtle ways. The trees were taller and had a purple tint to their leaves. The grass grew in spiral patterns and strange crystalline formations jutted from hillsides. But Rex's enhanced senses told him this world was alive and healthy, just foreign. The pod hit the ground hard, bouncing twice before coming to rest against a large boulder. Rex waited a moment, listening. His superior hearing picked up the sounds of the storm, howling wind, driving rain, and the crash of lightning. But underneath it all, he could hear something else. Water. Lots of water rushing and rising. Rex triggered the pod's emergency release, pushing the hatch open with his powerful shoulders. Immediately, wind and rain struck him with tremendous force. His enhanced metabolism kicked in, raising his body temperature to compensate for the cold, while his modified skin provided protection against the stinging precipitation. The locator beacon on his harness was already warming up, pointing him toward the northeast. Rex oriented himself and began moving, his enhanced muscles carrying him forward against the storm with surprising ease. The landscape around him was transforming. What should have been rolling grasslands was becoming a vast lake as floodwaters spread across the low-lying areas. Rex kept to higher ground when possible, but several times he had to swim across rapidly expanding streams. His enhanced lungs allowed him to hold his breath far longer than a normal dog, and his modified muscle density made him a powerful swimmer, even in the turbulent water. Each time he emerged from a crossing, his body automatically adjusted its temperature and expelled excess water from his respiratory system. As he traveled, Rex's enhanced intelligence processed everything around him. This wasn't just about finding the lions. He was mapping the entire area, noting safe paths, dangerous obstacles, and potential shelter sites. His modified brain stored all of this information with perfect clarity. 2 hours into his journey, Rex encountered his first major obstacle. A massive tree had fallen across his path, its trunk easily 6 feet in diameter. The rising floodwaters had turned the area around it into a raging torrent. A normal dog would have been stopped, but Rex's enhanced problem-solving abilities kicked in. He studied the obstacle from multiple angles, calculating options. The tree was too large to go over and too dangerous to go around through the floodwater, but Rex noticed something others might have missed. The tree's root system had been partially exposed by the flooding, creating a complex network of tunnels underneath. Rex carefully made his way down into the root system, using his enhanced night vision to navigate through the organic maze. The tunnels were tight, but his modified bone structure allowed him to compress his body in ways that would be impossible for a normal animal. He squeezed through gaps barely larger than his skull, emerging on the other side muddy but unharmed. As he continued northeast, the beacon grew warmer against his chest. But Rex was also picking up other signals with his enhanced senses. Scent markers carried on the wind told him there were animals nearby, not lions, but other creatures from the preserve who had been caught in the storm. Following the scent, Rex found a family of deer trapped on a small island of high ground that was rapidly shrinking. The does were calling frantically for their fawns who were stranded on the opposite side of a fast-moving stream. Rex didn't hesitate. This wasn't part of his primary mission, but his enhanced empathy made it impossible to ignore animals in distress. He plunged into the rushing water, fighting the current with powerful strokes. The fawns were terrified, huddled against some rocks as the water level continued to rise. Rex approached them slowly, using body language he had learned during his training. He lowered himself to appear less threatening and made soft vocalizations that seemed to calm them. One by one, Rex carried the fawns across the stream. His enhanced strength allowed him to swim with a young deer on his back, while his modified balance kept them both stable in the turbulent water. The reunion of the deer family was brief but touching. They nuzzled Rex gratefully before disappearing into the storm. By the time Rex resumed his journey toward the lions, he had been on the planet for nearly 4 hours. The beacon was definitely warmer now, and his enhanced hearing was picking up new sounds carried on the wind. Roars, distant, but unmistakable. The lions were close. As Rex crested a ridge, he saw Sector 7 spread out below him. What should have been a carefully maintained habitat with artificial water features and scattered groves of trees was now a disaster zone. The main shelter, a large building designed to house the Pride during extreme weather, was partially collapsed and surrounded by rushing water. Through the rain and lightning, Rex could see movement near the building, large shapes moving frantically in the floodwater, adult lions struggling to keep their heads above the rising tide. But Rex's enhanced vision picked up something else. On a small patch of high ground near the collapsed shelter, 2 tiny shapes huddled together. Cubs, very young cubs, alone and terrified. The beacon was pointing toward the main emergency shelter on the ridge above the habitat. But Rex could see the problem immediately. The adult lions were trapped by rising water between their current position and the safety of the ridge. They would never abandon their cubs, and the cubs were too young to make the journey. Rex studied the situation with his enhanced tactical thinking. The adult lions could probably reach safety if they had guidance and help, but someone needed to rescue the cubs first. The rising water would reach their small island within the hour. Rex made his decision. The cubs needed immediate help, and he was the only one who could provide it. He began making his way down toward the flood zone, his enhanced night vision guiding him through the treacherous terrain. As he descended, Rex caught the attention of one of the adult lions. The massive male looked up at him with surprise, then alarm. Rex was clearly not a threat. His body language was submissive and his intentions were obviously helpful, but lions had never seen anything like him before. Rex stopped and sat, waiting. His enhanced intelligence told him that gaining the pride's trust was essential to the mission's success. He couldn't help them if they saw him as a threat. The massive lion stared at Rex with golden eyes that held both wariness and desperation. Alpha male Brutus was nearly 400 pounds of apex predator, but the rising flood had reduced him to a trapped and terrified father, watching his cubs face certain death. Rex remained perfectly still, letting the lion study him. His enhanced understanding of animal behavior told him that any sudden movement would be seen as aggression. Instead, he lowered his head in a gesture of submission and respect. Behind Brutus, Rex could see the rest of the pride. Luna, the alpha female, was calling frantically to her cubs from across 20 yards of rushing water. Several other lionesses were clustered together on another patch of high ground. Their own older cubs huddled beneath them for protection. The two youngest cubs, barely a month old, were trapped on what had been a small hill, but was now an island shrinking by the minute. Their tiny mews of distress carried clearly over the storm, despite the wind and rain. Rex began to move slowly toward the water's edge, never taking his eyes off Brutus. The big lion tensed, ready to attack if this strange creature proved to be a threat to his family. But Rex's body language remained submissive and purposeful. As Rex reached the water, he noticed something that made his enhanced senses tingle with alarm. The current was stronger than it appeared from the surface, and beneath the muddy water, hidden debris was creating dangerous undertows. The Cubs' island would be completely submerged within 30 minutes. Rex entered the water carefully, testing the current with each step. His enhanced strength allowed him to maintain his footing against the flow, but he could feel the power of the flood trying to sweep him away. A normal dog would have been helpless in these conditions. Brutus followed Rex's progress with growing amazement. This creature was actually swimming toward his cubs, fighting through water that would challenge even a lion. The big cat's protective instincts warred with his growing hope that help had finally arrived. Rex reached the Cubs' island just as another section crumbled into the flood. The two tiny lions, one male, one female, were soaked, shivering, and terrified. They backed away from Rex at first, but his enhanced empathy allowed him to project an aura of calm and safety. He approached them slowly, making soft whining sounds that seemed to reassure them. The female cub, slightly braver than her brother, sniffed at Rex's extended paw. His scent was unfamiliar but not threatening. In fact, something about it suggested protection and strength. Rex carefully examined both cubs with his enhanced senses. They were uninjured but suffering from exposure and stress. His modified physiology had raised his body temperature during the swim, making him a warm refuge in the cold rain. Both cubs instinctively pressed against him, seeking heat and comfort. The challenge now was getting them to safety. Rex's harness contained a special pouch designed for exactly this situation, a waterproof compartment large enough to carry small animals. But first, he needed to convince the cubs to trust him completely. Rex began grooming the female cub with his tongue, the way her mother would. His saliva contained trace amounts of the same pheromones that lions use to mark their young as part of the pride. The genetic engineers who created Rex had included this feature specifically for rescue situations involving multiple species. The effect was immediate. Both cubs relaxed visibly, accepting Rex as a temporary guardian. The female even began purring, a sound that carried across the water to where Luna watched with desperate hope. Working quickly but gently, Rex secured the female cub in his harness pouch, making sure she could breathe comfortably, but was protected from the water. The male cub was small enough to carry in his mouth, not by the scruff of the neck, which would be painful, but cradled carefully in his enhanced jaws. The return journey was far more difficult. Rex was fighting the current while carrying two helpless passengers, and the water level had risen noticeably, even in the few minutes he had been on the island. Debris swept past him constantly, branches, rocks, and twisted metal from damaged human installations. Halfway across, a massive piece of wreckage, part of the collapsed shelter's roof, came spinning down the flood toward them. Rex saw it coming and made a split-second decision. Instead of trying to dodge, he dove underwater, using his enhanced lung capacity to stay submerged while the debris passed overhead. The cubs were terrified by the sudden submersion, but Rex's body heat and the waterproof pouch kept them safe. When he surfaced, both were still secure and breathing normally. Brutus was waiting at the water's edge as Rex struggled ashore. The big lion's demeanor had completely changed. Where before there had been suspicion, now there was gratitude and something approaching respect. Rex carefully placed the male cub at his father's feet, then opened the harness pouch to release the female. Both cubs immediately ran to their father, who began grooming them frantically while rumbling with relief. But even as he tended to his offspring, Brutus kept looking at Rex with an expression that seemed almost human in its complexity. Luna called out from across the water, her roars mixing joy at seeing her cubs safe with desperation at still being separated from them. The rest of the pride was in similar situations, scattered across multiple patches of high ground by the rising flood, unable to reach each other or escape to real safety. Rex studied the situation with his enhanced tactical thinking. The beacon on his chest was pointing toward the emergency shelter on the ridge, but getting there would require crossing more than half a mile of increasingly dangerous terrain. The adult lions were strong enough to make the journey, but they would need guidance through the safest route. More importantly, they would need to trust Rex completely. Rex approached Brutus and performed a behavior that no normal dog would ever attempt with a wild lion. He lowered himself into a play bow, the universal canine signal for friendship and cooperation. Then he moved to the water's edge and looked back at the lion, clearly indicating that he wanted Brutus to follow. Brutus understood immediately. This strange creature was offering to lead them to safety. The big lion roared once, not in anger or threat, but in what could only be described as acceptance. Rex had proven himself worthy of trust through his rescue of the cubs. Now Brutus was ready to place the survival of his entire pride in Rex's enhanced paws. Rex began moving toward the ridge, choosing each step carefully. Behind him, Brutus followed with both cubs, while across the water Luna and the other lionesses watched anxiously. The most dangerous part of the rescue was just beginning. Rex led Brutus and the cubs up the slope toward the emergency shelter, but his enhanced hearing told him they were not alone in their struggle. Across the flooded habitat, Luna's roars were becoming more desperate. The patch of ground where she and 3 other lionesses were trapped was shrinking rapidly. Rex stopped and looked back at Brutus, who was carrying one cub in his mouth while the other walked unsteadily beside him. The big lion's eyes followed Rex's gaze toward his trapped mate, and Rex could see the anguish in his expression. No male lion would willingly abandon his pride, but leaving the cubs to attempt a rescue would mean certain death for the youngest members of the family. Rex made a decision that would have been impossible for any normal animal. He barked once at Brutus, then gently took the walking cub in his own mouth and placed it on his back. Using his enhanced strength and balance, Rex positioned both cubs so they could ride securely while he moved. Brutus watched this with amazement, then understood. Rex was telling him to go rescue Luna, while Rex kept the cubs safe. But Rex had an even better plan. Instead of heading directly toward the emergency shelter, Rex began moving laterally along the ridge, always staying within sight of the trapped lionesses below. His enhanced vision had spotted something during his initial survey, a fallen tree that created a natural bridge across one of the wider streams. The tree was precarious, partially submerged and slippery with rain, but Rex's enhanced balance and coordination made it navigable. More importantly, it led to a section of higher ground that connected to Luna's position. Rex barked again, this time a complex series of sounds that somehow conveyed his plan to Brutus. The big lion's enhanced intelligence, a result of the same genetic programs that had created all the animals in the preserve, allowed him to understand the strategy. Brutus would cross the tree bridge and guide Luna's group to safety while Rex continued toward the emergency shelter with the cubs. They would reunite at the cave system on the ridge. What followed was one of the most remarkable displays of interspecies cooperation ever witnessed. Rex carefully made his way across the slippery tree trunk, his enhanced claws providing grip on the wet bark while the cubs clung to his harness. Brutus followed, his massive frame making the improvised bridge groan and sway. Once across, Brutus immediately began calling to Luna, who responded with roars of relief and joy. The alpha female and her companions had been trapped for hours, watching helplessly as the water rose around their shrinking island. Meanwhile, Rex continued his climb toward the emergency shelter. now carrying both cubs and using his enhanced endurance to maintain a steady pace despite the extra weight. The beacon on his chest grew warmer with each step, confirming he was heading in the right direction. The cubs had stopped being afraid of Rex entirely. In fact, they seemed to find the ride exciting, occasionally making small chirping sounds that in lion culture indicated contentment and trust. Rex's enhanced empathy allowed him to monitor their emotional state constantly, adjusting his pace and movement to keep them comfortable. As he climbed higher, Rex's enhanced senses picked up new information about the storm. His modified nervous system could detect subtle changes in air pressure and electromagnetic fields that told him the weather was beginning to shift. The worst of the storm would pass within a few hours, but there would be a dangerous period of flash flooding as all the accumulated water rushed downhill. The emergency shelter was exactly where Elena had said it would be, a natural cave system that humans had reinforced with supplies and basic amenities. Rex found the entrance marked with the familiar scent compounds from his training, confirming he was in the right place. Inside, the cave was dry, warm, and stocked with everything the Pride would need to survive the remainder of the storm: water, food appropriate for lions, basic medical supplies, and even heated areas where the cubs could warm up properly. Rex carefully lowered the cubs from his back, and they immediately began exploring their new environment. The cave's acoustics amplified their small vocalizations, creating an echo that seemed to comfort them. But Rex's job was far from over. His enhanced hearing picked up sounds from below that made his fur stand on end. Brutus was roaring in distress, and there were sounds of splashing and chaos. Something had gone wrong with the rescue of Luna's group. Rex quickly checked that the cubs were safe in the cave's warming area, then rushed back outside. From his elevated position, he could see the disaster unfolding below. The tree bridge had partially collapsed under the combined weight of multiple adult lions, leaving Luna stranded on a small section of trunk while the floodwater raged around her. Brutus was in the water, trying desperately to reach his mate, but the current was too strong even for his massive frame. The other lionesses had made it to safety, but Luna was trapped and the remaining tree trunk was slowly sinking under her weight. Rex didn't hesitate. His enhanced physiology had been designed for exactly these kinds of emergency situations. He raced down the slope, his modified muscles carrying him faster than any normal animal could move across treacherous terrain. At the water's edge, Rex quickly assessed the situation with his enhanced tactical thinking. Luna was too far out for him to reach by swimming, and the current was too strong for her to swim to shore. But the water had carried debris from the collapsed shelter downstream, creating a complex maze of floating obstacles. Rex began jumping from piece to piece. A broken door here, a floating beam there, a partially submerged barrel from the emergency supplies. His enhanced balance and coordination allowed him to navigate the chaotic obstacle course with the precision of a gymnast. Each leap required split-second calculations of distance, weight, stability, and current flow. Rex's modified brain processed all of these variables instantly, while his enhanced reflexes made tiny adjustments to his trajectory mid-flight. Luna watched his approach with a mixture of hope and disbelief. This strange creature had already saved her cubs and was now risking its own life to rescue her. When Rex finally reached her position, she allowed him to guide her onto a more stable section of debris without any resistance. The return journey was even more challenging. Luna was a large, heavy lioness, and her presence changed the balance of every floating piece they used. Rex had to constantly recalculate their route as debris shifted and new obstacles appeared in the churning water. But his enhanced strength and endurance proved equal to the task. Step by step, leap by leap, Rex guided Luna across the treacherous water to safety. When they finally reached solid ground, Luna actually nuzzled Rex in a gesture of gratitude that brought tears to the eyes of every human watching from orbit above. Brutus greeted his mate with obvious relief, and together the three of them began the climb to the emergency shelter. As they walked, Rex noticed something remarkable happening. The other lionesses, who had witnessed the entire rescue, were following them in a formation that clearly indicated Rex was now considered part of the Pride. For the first time in recorded history, a dog had been accepted as a member of a lion pride. Inside the emergency shelter, an extraordinary scene was unfolding. Rex lay in the center of the cave while the two lion cubs used him as a living pillow, their tiny bodies rising and falling with his steady breathing. Around them, the adult lions had arranged themselves in a protective circle, but instead of facing outward to guard against threats, they were all facing inward, watching Rex with expressions of curiosity and acceptance. Luna approached slowly, carrying a piece of the emergency rations in her mouth, high-protein food designed specifically for the preserve's carnivores. She dropped it near Rex's head, then settled down beside him. It was an unprecedented gesture. A wild lioness sharing food with a dog she had known for less than 6 hours. Rex's enhanced metabolism had burned tremendous energy during the rescue operations, and he was genuinely hungry, but his modified social intelligence told him this moment was about more than food. Luna was formally accepting him into the pride's social structure. To refuse would be an insult. To accept would make him family. Rex ate carefully, making sure to leave portions for the cubs when they woke up. His enhanced digestive system could process the lion-specific nutrients without any problems. Another advantage of his genetic modifications. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but the cave system provided perfect protection. The human engineers who had prepared this shelter had done their job well. Heating elements powered by geothermal energy kept the temperature comfortable, while air circulation systems ensured fresh oxygen flow throughout the complex. Brutus had positioned himself near the cave entrance, alert for any new dangers. But even the big alpha male was visibly relaxed in a way that seemed impossible given the circumstances. His entire pride was safe, his cubs were alive, and somehow a creature from another world had made it all possible. Rex's enhanced hearing picked up sounds from deep within the cave system that the lions couldn't detect. His modified auditory processing identified the signatures of other animals, creatures that had found their way to secondary chambers in the shelter network. The emergency refuge was serving its purpose, protecting dozens of species from the alien storm. As the hours passed, Rex found himself becoming completely integrated into the pride's social dynamics. The lionesses took turns grooming him, their rough tongues carefully cleaning the mud and debris from his fur. Rex reciprocated by grooming the cubs, his more delicate tongue perfect for cleaning around their eyes and ears. The cubs, now fully warmed and fed, had begun playing with Rex in ways that would have been impossible with any normal dog. They stalked his tail, pounced on his paws, and practiced their hunting techniques on his patient form. Rex's enhanced durability meant their sharp claws and teeth couldn't hurt him, while his enhanced reflexes allowed him to play at exactly the right intensity to encourage their development without overexciting them. Most remarkably, Rex began vocalizing with the pride. His enhanced larynx could produce a wider range of sounds than any normal dog, and his modified brain was learning to interpret and respond to lion communications in real time. When Luna made a low rumbling sound that meant contentment, Rex responded with a similar rumble that made all the lions purr with approval. Meanwhile, high above in Research Station Alpha 7, Elena hadn't slept in 18 hours. She stood at the observation deck's main window, watching the storm slowly begin to weaken. The locator beacon in Rex's harness was transmitting steadily, confirming he was alive and in the emergency shelter, but she had no way of knowing what was happening down there. "The storm's eye is finally starting to form," reported Lieutenant Webb, studying his meteorological displays. "We should have clear conditions in about 6 hours. Any word from the other sectors?" Elena asked, though she kept her eyes fixed on the planet below. "All emergency shelters are reporting occupancy. It looks like most of the animals found safety, thanks to Rex's pathfinding. The scent trails he left during his journey guided other species to refuge sites." Elena felt a surge of pride mixed with worry. Rex had not only saved the lions, but had inadvertently rescued countless other creatures by marking safe routes through the flooding. His enhanced intelligence had turned a single rescue mission into a comprehensive evacuation effort. Dr. Wu approached with a steaming cup of coffee and a concerned expression. "Elena, you need to consider something. Rex has been with that pride for almost 12 hours now. His enhanced genetics include pack-bonding instincts that are much stronger than normal dogs. What if he doesn't want to come back?" The thought had been haunting Elena since the moment Rex disappeared into the storm. Enhanced animals had free will in ways that normal pets didn't. If Rex decided that his place was with the lions, no human had the right to force him to return. "He'll come back," Elena said quietly, but her voice carried more hope than certainty. Back in the cave, Rex was experiencing something no enhanced animal had ever felt before. His modified empathy centers were fully engaged with the pride's emotional state, creating a feedback loop of mutual affection and protection. He could feel Luna's maternal instincts extending to include him, Brutus's protective nature covering him as family, and the cub's innocent trust making him feel like their guardian. But Rex also felt something else, a pull from the beacon in his harness that wasn't technological. His enhanced memory perfectly recalled Elena's face when she said goodbye, the worry in her voice, the love in her eyes. His genetic programming included loyalty pathways that were stronger than any normal animal's, but they were focused on the human who had saved him from the streets and given him purpose. As dawn approached and the storm began to weaken, Rex found himself caught between two families. The lions had accepted him completely, offering him a place in their natural social structure that felt as real as anything he had ever experienced. But Elena was waiting for him in the stars above, trusting him to return as promised. The cubs sensed his internal conflict with the intuition that young animals possessed. They pressed closer to him, purring and mewing in ways that clearly said, "Stay with us." Luna added her own vocalizations, low sounds that conveyed affection and invitation. Rex looked toward the cave entrance, where the first hints of sunlight were beginning to filter through the storm clouds. Soon, human rescue teams would arrive to check on the animals and begin the process of rebuilding the damaged habitats. They would expect to find Rex waiting for pickup, mission accomplished. But as he lay surrounded by the warmth and acceptance of his new pride, Rex faced the most difficult decision of his enhanced life. Where did he truly belong? The first rescue shuttle touched down on Kepler 442b as the alien storm finally began to dissipate. Elena was in the pilot's seat, having pulled rank to ensure she would be on the first team to reach the surface. Her hands shook slightly as she ran through the landing checklist, 18 hours of worry and sleeplessness taking their toll. "Emergency shelter Alpha 7 is 2 clicks northeast," reported the co-pilot, scanning the flood-damaged landscape below. "Beacon signal is strong and steady." Elena nodded, not trusting her voice to remain steady. Through the shuttle's windows, she could see the devastation the storm had caused. Entire sections of the preserve were underwater. Artificial structures had been swept away, and the carefully maintained ecosystem would take years to fully recover. But they had saved the animals. That was what mattered. As they approached the emergency shelter, Elena's enhanced communications equipment picked up unexpected sounds. Not just the steady beacon signal from Rex's harness, but complex vocalizations that made her heart race. Lions roaring, but not in distress. These were sounds of contentment, family communication, social bonding. "Dr. Vasquez," the co-pilot said quietly, "those readings can't be right. The acoustic analysis is showing dog vocalizations mixed in with the lion sounds, like they're talking to each other." Elena smiled for the first time in almost a day. "Trust me, those readings are exactly right." The shuttle landed on a patch of high ground about 50 yards from the cave entrance. Elena grabbed her emergency medical kit and jumped out before the engines had fully shut down, leaving her team to secure the landing site. As she approached the cave, the vocalizations inside grew more excited. Rex had heard the shuttle's approach long before any human ear could detect it. His enhanced senses immediately identifying Elena's scent signature, carried on the wind. Elena reached the cave entrance just as Rex emerged, and the sight that greeted her stopped her in her tracks. Rex looked magnificent. His fur was clean and glossy from lion grooming, his posture showed confidence and contentment, and his eyes held a depth of experience that hadn't been there before. But most remarkably, he emerged surrounded by the entire lion pride, walking among them as if he belonged. Brutus and Luna flanked Rex on either side, while the cubs tumbled around his feet playfully. The other lionesses followed in formation, and Elena realized she was witnessing something that would rewrite textbooks on animal behavior. "Hello, boy," Elena said softly, kneeling down and extending her hand. Rex approached slowly, and Elena could see the conflict in his intelligent eyes. He came close enough to nuzzle her hand, his warm breath familiar and comforting. But he didn't rush to her the way he might have before. Something fundamental had changed. Luna made a low, rumbling sound, and to Elena's amazement, Rex responded with a similar vocalization. The lioness was asking something, and Rex was answering. Elena's years of studying animal communication gave her a rough translation. Luna was asking if this human was Rex's family. Rex's response seemed to indicate yes, but complicated. Elena felt tears beginning to form as she understood what was happening. Rex had found a place where his enhanced abilities were not just useful but essential. Among the lions, he wasn't a modified pet or a research subject. He was family, protector, and equal. "You want to stay with them, don't you?" Elena whispered. Rex looked at her with eyes that somehow conveyed both love and apology. He moved closer and licked her face, then gently took her hand in his mouth and led her deeper into the cave. What Elena saw inside took her breath away. The emergency shelter had been transformed into something resembling a multi-species nursery. Rex had not only saved the lions but had guided other animals to safety throughout the storm. Deer, birds, small mammals, and even some of the preserve's reptiles had found refuge in the connected cave systems. But more than that, they were all coexisting peacefully under Rex's guidance. His enhanced empathy and communication abilities had created a temporary ecosystem where natural predators and prey were cooperating for survival. "My God, Rex," Elena breathed. "You didn't just save them. You brought them together." The cubs bounded over to Elena, completely unafraid of the strange human. They sniffed her curiously, then looked to Rex for guidance. Rex made a soft sound, and both cubs began purring as they rubbed against Elena's legs. Elena knelt down to pet them, and as she did, Luna approached. The lioness studied Elena carefully, then did something unprecedented in recorded history. She head-butted Elena gently, the way lions greet family members. "She's thanking me," Elena realized. "She knows I'm the one who trained you, who made this possible." Rex barked once, his signal for yes. Elena spent the next hour documenting the incredible scene while her team established communication with the orbiting station. The rescue was successful beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Not only had Rex saved the lions, but his actions had resulted in the survival of over 300 animals from across the preserve. But as the morning progressed and more rescue teams arrived, Elena faced the hardest decision of her career. Rex clearly wanted to stay with the pride, and the lions had accepted him as family. Separating them would cause psychological trauma to all involved. Yet Rex was technically human property, the result of classified military research programs. Taking him back to the station was Elena's duty. Elena was still wrestling with this dilemma when Commander Chen arrived on the second shuttle. "Dr. Vasquez," Chen said as she observed the remarkable scene in the cave, "I've been in communication with Earth Command. The enhanced animal program has been officially declassified as of this morning." Elena looked up in surprise. The footage of Rex's rescue mission has been transmitted across human space. The public response has been overwhelming. Earth Command has decided that enhanced animals deserve the same rights as unmodified ones, including the right to choose their own living situations. Chen smiled as she watched Rex playing with the cubs. "The question isn't whether we'll take Rex back to the station. The question is whether Rex wants to come back." Elena called to Rex, who approached with his usual intelligence and attention. She knelt down to his level and spoke seriously. "Rex, you have a choice now. You can come back to the station with me, live as my partner in research, help train other enhanced animals, or you can stay here with your new family, help protect the preserve. Be free to live as you choose." Rex sat quietly for a long moment, his enhanced mind processing the decision. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He moved to Elena and placed his paw on her knee, then walked to Luna and sat beside her. Then back to Elena, then back to Luna. He wants both, Elena realized. He wants to be part of both families. Commander Chen laughed. "Why not? We're establishing a permanent research station on the surface to help rebuild the preserve. Dr. Vasquez, how would you feel about relocating your research to the planet? Rex could divide his time between working with you and living with the pride." Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "I think that sounds perfect." Rex barked twice, his signal for very yes, and then the cubs responded by pouncing on him in celebration. As the rescue teams worked to relocate animals and assess damage throughout the preserve, Elena established her new laboratory in a facility built near the lion habitat. Rex would spend his days helping with research and training other enhanced animals, then return to the cave each evening to be with his pride. The cubs grew up thinking of Rex as their older brother, and under his guidance, they became the most intelligent and socially advanced lions ever recorded. Luna and Brutus treated Elena as an extended family member, allowing her to study their behavior and interaction with Rex in ways that advanced animal psychology by decades. But perhaps most importantly, Rex's heroic actions had changed how humanity viewed enhanced animals. No longer seen as property or research subjects, they were recognized as individuals with rights, choices, and the potential for greatness. 6 months later, Elena sat in her laboratory watching Rex play with Luna's second litter of cubs through the window. The preserve had been rebuilt better than before, incorporating lessons learned from the Great Storm. And at the center of it all was a dog who had proven that heroism, intelligence, and love could transcend species barriers. Rex looked up from his play and saw Elena watching. He barked once, his signal for "I love you," then returned his attention to teaching the cubs how to hunt. Elena smiled and returned to her work, knowing that Rex had found his true calling. He wasn't just a rescue dog anymore. He was a bridge between species, a guardian of the preserve, and living proof that the best of humanity could be found in the courage to create others capable of surpassing their creators. In the files that night, Elena made her final entry about the storm rescue. Subject Rex has exceeded all parameters of the Enhanced Animal Program. Mission status: complete success. Personal status: forever family.